Welcome back, guys. We are back here, Rick and David, with episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Quick recap and review our thoughts on this. Again, completely different from like WandaVision. This one had some action. It had a lot of action, actually, and it's fast paced. So I really enjoy the episode. But before we get into like our thoughts and review on it, David, why don't you give us the recap?
So the episode starts off, it picks up right where the first one ends, right? We see them handing off the shield to a new character, right? He's introduced as John Walker. He is the best candidate that the military had to, kind of fill in his shoes. And he comes out to this huge parade to his old high school. They've got the whole band, the whole drum line. It's a real party. It's a real nice party for him. I don't know about you, but it's kind of funny because he looks kind of funky in the helmet, right? Like they give a show of his face, and he's got kind of like I don't know. He's a little ugly. He's a little ugly in the mask.
Yeah, he's not as pretty as Chris Evans. Yeah,
charismatic. Yeah. And so it picks up right there from. He is talking to a reporter on TV, and he sees Bucky and Sam are watching the live event, and it cuts away to Bucky taking a visit to Sam. Sam is getting ready to, go intercept the, what are they called? Flag smashers? They call them planet smashers. Flag smashers, right? Because he gets a tip from his sidekick, quote unquote sidekick. From the first one.
It's essentially just recon guy, honestly.
His recon guy, right? He is supposed to be the next what is it? Red Hawk? His
Red Wing
little bird
is or
something, like his psychic. Red Wing. I said Red Hawk. Red Wing. And they have a little back and forth. We have what was a Hobbit reference, right? Bucky hits Sam with the 1-2 with the culture facts. He's like, yeah, I know about Gandalf. I read The Hobbit back in 1937 when it first was published, and that was a really funny reference because everybody knows Gandalf from the Lord of the Rings. Well, if you're like a much bigger Lord of the Rings fan, and Sam is just like, oh shit, you know exactly what you're talking about, and so it turns into them taking off to go intercept the Flag Smashers on this heist, right? They get to the scene where there's this warehouse, and they're they're putting things into a truck, and the super soldiers, well, they're what we assume to be super soldiers because they have these really strong people lifting these ton crates, right? And we don't know what's in them, but we later find out that it's like medicine for underdeveloped countries and stuff, like places where the blip
maybe some COVID vaccines in there.
Maybe some masks or something, some kind of aid. And so there's a lot of banter between them. Bucky and Sam, I think, have a lot of good chemistry. They have really solid chemistry in this episode, because this is right. This is when they meet up in the first episode. They don't cross paths yet. Here they pick up we forget that Sam knew Captain America only for not a very long time, because Bucky is 116 years old, and he's kind of like his childhood best friend.
Yeah, because they met.
So he's got
let me see. It wasn't Civil War, but it was Winter Soldier, when Falcon was first introduced.
Soldier. Right, and then not to forget that for right after that they were on the run for the next couple of years. So Sam was actually away. He was a fugitive away from his sister, right, who we met in the first episode. Was really good character development. So it makes a lot more sense, her motivations for why she's so upset. You were a fugitive and now you want to come back, all this and that. And then we get to the big action scene, right? They try and stop the shipment of vaccines or medicine, whatever they have in there. And they assume they have a hostage, and it turns out to be this character who happens to be super strong. She's super strong. She kicks the hell out of Bucky, tosses him into the front of another truck, which I thought was hilarious because we see him running, right, towards the truck, but the truck driving behind the front, the main one, doesn't like signal that there's somebody trying to get in. So I assume that it was like a self-driving truck or something, because why the hell wouldn't the driver in the truck behind the one Bucky got kicked out?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. The only, I think logical maybe reasoning is because they knew what he was walking into.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they have somebody in there, so she'll take care of him.
Oh, shit.
Because I was like, why would you go... At first, I was like, why would you go towards the second one when the first one's there? But then I was like, maybe that's not where the... Exactly. Because the hostage is not in that first one, it's in the second one. And then the first one didn't even get a heads up, like you said. But maybe it's just because, he's going to walk into a trap, which is essentially what he did. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I was like, he did. They did walk into a trap because Falcon and Bucky they started fighting off these essentially super soldiered up, super serumed baddies. And you see that it takes like 3 or 4 of them to hold Bucky down because he's also kind of super powered. So it kind of makes sense that he's got 4 strong, super powered people holding him down. And, the suspense of disbelief for the Falcon, it's like at any moment you're going to get your head smashed in or something. Like they can just break your wings in half. And then there was a funny moment where you see Falcon's red wing kind of try and come to the rescue. And one of the superpowered people, baddies, just grabs it and just breaks it. And then Bucky, says, "Oh man, I wish I got to do that." I thought that was funny because it's kind of a reference to back in Civil War, right? When they got down with Spider-Man and the little Red Wing caught Spider-Man, and then after that, they get saved. Somebody comes and saves them. The new Captain America comes in with the shield slinging. I gotta say, the shield slinging does not get old. Like the momentum, like the way they throw it, right? It looks incredible. Like it just looks really like. It looks
which I was really surprised because he's not a super soldier. He's a regular McGee out here, and he's throwing it around proficiently. Like he's in that. Just in that scene, I think he threw it around more than Captain America in some of his movies. And they showed him like training with it. So it's surprising because I was like, a shield coming at you that quickly.
Yeah.
And you catching it, I would think if you're not super strong, it'd break your fucking hand. If you're just a regular person, I would think it would break your hand. And he's just handling it like it's a toy. Like a toy, which is kind of like how it looks when he starts to throw it around, right? Because he jumps in with his sidekick, who calls himself Battlestar, which it's fucking hilarious. It's like Battlestar or something. It just totally lines up with what the kind of names the fucking government would give, right? We call our astronauts space guardians now. We call them guardians. Like, I mean, if Destiny's doing it, Guardians is the correct.
Yes, Guardian. And so we see them get down. It's a real nice exchange. And then something interesting happens. We see Captain America pull out a gun. He pulls out the Glock, pulls out the Glizzy. He even leans into it. He leans into it to the side and is like, "Yo!"
Takes a shot.
Actually, hits one of the baddies in the shoulder.
The shoulder is I think it is a shoulder, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like the collarbone. Yeah, he's downed and but not out. They're reviving him. Hit him with
the self-res. Yeah,
the self-res.
Don't worry, mate. I got you.
And so, he's got him. And so the battle concludes with them, which I think this is also what I loved about the Netflix series, them being so grounded. We see Falcon and Bucky walking, right? Just two dudes walking back. Like, they don't have an Iron Man suit to take off. I mean, technically Falcon does, but what is he going to do? Carry Bucky all the way home? And they're walking home. And then we see Captain America and Battlestar driving by in their little Humvee. And they're like, "Hey, come on, guys, get in. We'll help. We'll figure this out together." And they're just like, "Nah, we're not playing ball here." So they convince him to get into the Jeep and they drive for a little bit. That's when Bucky asks his staring issue. He's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm Battlestar." And Bucky just is like not having any of this shit. He's just like, let me out. They pull over, Falcon and Bucky get out, and Captain America's like, I'll just call him Captain America for now. But John Walker,
he is
the
new Captain America.
That's who's playing.
Yeah,
he is Captain America at the moment, right? Technically, and they walk off, right? And what happens after that? I'm having a bit of trouble remembering right after it cuts away. Oh, one of my favorite parts of this episode. They go and meet Bucky introduces Sam to an old frenemy of his, essentially somebody who whooped his ass back in the day. They go meet Elijah, who we find out is a black super soldier.
Is it Isaiah, right? Or is it?
There was a
Elijah.
Isaiah, right? Yeah. What did I say?
Yeah, so I said
Elijah. Where's Elijah? It's Isaiah. Isaiah. Yeah, you're right. It is Isaiah. We find out this is also a comic book character where Isaiah was Captain America for a time being. And man, it was really man, Disney is doing a really good job of handling commentary, like social commentary. Man, like they are just hitting it out of the park, and I am enjoying it because it is good. It's not tacked on, and it's funny. Like the scene where they arrived in the neighborhood, and this little kid, he's like, "Hey, look, it's the Black Falcon," and Sam is like, "What? What'd you say?" He's like, "The Black Falcon." He's like, "What do you mean, Black Falcon?" He's like, "Are you Black Kid?" And, he's like stumbled thinking about it. He's like, well, I'm just a kid. And, I thought that was really funny. They're doing a really good job with that. We find out Isaiah was a former super soldier that was mistreated. And, there's a lot of, really good commentary there about, World War II. Well, they met it during the Korean War. And then, he tells him to get the hell out of the house because he's like not in a good mood, Isaiah. And they have, the classic, is this guy bothering you situation with the police? Right, they get pulled over, and it almost right as it was happening, I'm like, this feels very cheesy. Like I was like, oh, so this is like tacked. It felt tacked on. But then they hit you with well, no, it's not. We're not actually here to harass Sam. Bucky actually missed his court mandated therapy session, which is kind of like missing an appointment with your PO officer. So there was a warrant out for his arrest. Cool little twist right there. They arrest Bucky. Like they put him in handcuffs. Put in handcuffs.
I like the scene because, like I said in our last video, I don't think Disney should, or to be honest, any show, any platform should, kind of turn a blind eye to what's going on socially, what's going on in the world today. So instead of like, it did feel a little bit cheesy. Like they kind of tried to give that energy where we usually see it, but I think it's right. I think it should be put in the light because, any problem, if you ignore it, it doesn't get fixed. So the fact that it was brought up, even no matter what the way they did it, it was good. And it was a good transition into, getting Bucky essentially back to wherever they needed. What was it, like the police station that they got him down, and it was because of his therapist having to contact them.
We find out that essentially it's kind of hinted at that it was John Walker, Captain America, who kind of pulled his Captain America card and was like, yo, like we need to get Bucky and Sam in one place. And we move on to this therapy scene where Bucky and Sam essentially have like a bit of a heart-to-heart because they haven't spoken to each other since the events of Endgame, and Bucky says to him, hey, like, why did you give up the shield? And I thought this was an interesting answer from Sam. He said, maybe it's something, and I think he says your people won't understand, and it's that maybe he was referring to the Avengers or whoever. I'm not sure. Maybe if it was a commentary on something else, but he says, maybe you just don't understand that what I was doing, I thought was the right thing, right? He was doing what he thinks is right, right? And that I thought was a good answer. I was like, okay, it makes sense. If it was like, and it seemed genuine, and I thought that was cool. And then they kind of bring some comedic, they release the tension with some kind of with the therapist saying, okay, time for you guys to try and make up. And, you know, they do these exercises where it's like this soul gazing exercise. They're looking directly into each other's eyes and they're, you know, just soul gazing or whatever. So that ends his therapy sessions. That was the
yeah, I mean, yeah, it was, I mean, essentially
uh-huh.
Captain America got them out of that, and said, you know, like, we need them. So
right.
there's more pressing matters than the kind of the small, admin stuff, right?
Going to therapy.
But I thought this scene was important not only because it's the one question, and Marvel's been doing a great job, especially like with WandaVision. And now here is where they're answering kind of the fans' questions at the same time, even if it's unintentional. But, you know, in WandaVision, we saw it when everybody was asking, well, what does the hex mean, what all this stuff? And those were questions that were written on the board as Wu was trying to figure them out. And it's the same thing as now. It's like the main question that most people were asking is, like, why did he give up the shield? And that's what's asked here, which I think is great, because that's the biggest question that at least some of us had. I was like, why? Like, almost like what Bucky said was how I felt, is like, so you didn't know that they were going to do this, you know, like give it to somebody else, essentially. That's the same thing I felt. It's like, you think giving it back, they weren't going to just give it to someone else. That's kind of naive to think. But we did get his genuine answer. Is, you know, him saying like, no, I didn't know that's what's going to happen, and I thought I was doing the right thing, which is a good answer. It's his answer. And the other good thing is that what came out of here was Bucky's issue with giving back the shield, you know, because we know Bucky's mad at him giving back the shield, but it's because, you know, what he says is the fact that, you know, Steve Rogers believed in Sam. And that's why he gave him a shield, is because he believed that he would be a good guy to, you know, replace essentially. Replace him.
Essentially.
And he didn't, you know, he chose not to, like, take the mantle. And that kind of got Bucky thinking internally, like, well, if he was wrong about Sam, he's wrong about me being able to change and be essentially a better person. Like, being able to, like, I'm not that same assassin. Yeah. So that's powerful in itself, because it's like, that's why we find out why Bucky has more of an internal issue with him giving the shield, and kind of giving his perspective where his mind is.
Yeah. You know, and that's a good point, because it would have been, you know, it would have been something funny to take a book out of like a very low budget television series where it was instead an act of jealousy. Like, imagine. Oh yeah,
saying like, I'm the one that should have got the shield or whatever.
Know? Yeah, like, or like or he turns into this like anti, you know, friend of his, because he's like, well, you know, if you're saying you aren't worthy of the shield, then no one is, you know, because it does say a lot. And man, I thought, that was a really good scene, nice piece of dialogue. Some people complain that, you know, there's a little too much talking and they want to get to the action already. And then we get towards the end of the episode where we see them walk out of the police station after their therapy session, and they run into, this was something funny that I saw someone pointed out, was that you see Captain America and his buddy Battlestar hanging out by the cop car, and what are they doing? Just messing around with the siren, you know? They're what does that say about them? They're immature. They're just like, you know, they're calling them over and they're just messing with a police siren. If it were anybody else, you know, you'd be jumped on or whatever. You'd be tased right away.
Okay.
and we get a little taste of John, of Captain America's dark side. You know, Sam and Bucky turned down their invitation to work together because they essentially work under the government. They're essentially government agents. They have restrictions, jurisdictions. They need call orders. They need to be able to ask for permission. Falcon and Bucky don't have to do that. They fall under different rules, which is interesting because it got me thinking. I'm like, okay, well, the whole scene in the beginning with Libya. Oh, but they're contractors, right? They're contractors, so they don't exactly have the same. They're contractors, so it would make sense. Again, it's about how the fuck is Sam broke? You know what I mean? It just makes it different. You would think they would, which is a good commentary on the way veterans are treated here, right? The whole with Isaiah, with Sam coming back after such a huge battle, only to find out that he can't get help from his local bank. It's really good stuff, really good writing, in my opinion. And one final thing on the episodes about the Disney shows is that we're not going to get any major plot developments that have to do with the movies, because apparently you want people to be able to watch this show and be oblivious to what's happening in the MC, the larger movies. So for someone who watches only the movies and says, I don't care about the shows, you can watch the movies and miss out on the shows, because there won't be anything of they're not going to introduce the next major MCU villain in one of these. Apparently they're going to be keeping it at a certain level, where anything above that will be introduced in the
so that used forward. To kind of be I think has been what's been going on before. I think WandaVision was that you were in DC and Marvel, you were able to, they have their shows, but they don't really tie into the movies. And it's you can watch either one and you're fine. But I think that kind of in this now beginning with this kind of phase of no, but we are rolling out shows that do have a bit to do with because yes, essentially maybe you can miss the shows and the movies will make sense. I just don't think if you're an actual fan and you want to see MCU as a whole and as the big picture, you don't want to miss out the shows, because the shows give us development that we're gonna need. Like I said, in WandaVision, there's
that depth.
Yeah, well, not only for character development, but for new characters as well. And that's imagine watching another Captain America movie without having seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier and not knowing, and you just see John Walker, and it's well, where did this guy come out of, without having to see? We don't know what his character is going to develop until obviously the series ends, but still, that's kind of it'll be a little bit weird, and you won't have a lot of backstory that you can go off because you didn't watch the show. So I think if you are a fan and you do want to know, you want to get the big picture, I would not miss either one. I would still watch the movies as regular, but I would also be tuning into the shows as they are being premiered. So
released. Yeah, I've heard this is only going to be 6 episodes, so you're not going to hear us talk about it for too long, because right after that we're going to see Loki. So I love Tom Hiddleston, and AAA actors like that, on a streaming show, totally worth it.
But just wrapping up for this episode, I'm gonna at least give my take on what I would give this episode. I think it's I think it was good. 9 for me. 9. Yeah, I don't know, for some reason I just wasn't as I thought it was a solid episode. What they did with the racial kind of commentary, I thought was really good, and also kind of the breakthrough between the friction right now that's going on with Falcon or Sam and Bucky, I think was really good, and having them team up, even though you kind of now start to see they're gonna have to team up even if they don't agree with each other at this point, but it gives them room to as this the series kind of develop, to maybe get a bit closer, the same way that Bucky was close to Captain America and both Captain America was close to Sam. You see, now there's not that middle person anymore, and we're trying to draw them together. Yeah, because now Steve Rogers is out.
Yeah.
So having them together is that, because they're friends of a friend. Now we're trying to see, once you take that friend, can you guys still be friends? And that's I think where we're getting to, and I think I like what they did here in this episode. And I also like what I was waiting for was in the beginning, when the last episode ended, I was John Walker. I didn't know his name at the time. I was like, looks like a jackass. I didn't like him. How this episode began, kind of like, I was like, okay, you're being too critical. Because he says, you know, I'm just trying to be the best. And there's a lot of pressure, and you kind of see him in the locker room, kind of like going over his lines and stuff. So I'm like, all right, give this dude a break. Maybe he really just got thrown into this, and he's trying to do what he's trying, like, his absolute, like, just give it his all. But I was waiting for that dark side. And I did like that came out at the end by him saying, like, okay, if we're not going to work together, just stay out of my way. And I liked absolutely he did that, because now it gives me a reason to be like, you got to watch out for this guy.
You know what's funny? You know, because this is Kurt Russell.
Oh, I was not aware of that.
Kurt Russell has the face. He's got the look. And Kurt Russell, right, his kid, I love the fact that you see him and you know that's not Chris Evans. It's not like somebody who they tried to get to look like Chris Evans. And he's got the comb over. It's a little bit shorter than Chris Evans. His face is not at all like in that. It's symmetrical enough, but in the portions of it are off, because he's got that Kurt Russell look. And that's what makes this a really fun show so far. For me, I'm going to give it a 9 as well. It's a solid 9, strong 9, because it's just keeping up what we've built up over the last 10 years. And this is a hint to Snyder. I mean, not the Snyder. I keep thinking of Snyderverse. I'm thinking of Warner Brothers. Please, guys, come on. You know. Anyways, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. Episode 2. Tune in next week. Well, it's already this week for Captain and the Winter Soldier episode 3. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.